Thank you for joining me for this week's Weston 101. I'm Piper Goodeve, Director of Education and Artistic Associate here at the Weston Playhouse. Today we'll be exploring the classic musical, The Music Man, playing on our main stage, August 3rd through the 19th. The Music Man will be directed by our founding director, Malcolm Ewan, and features a cast of Weston favorites, including Marissa McGowan as Marion Peru and David Bonanno as Harold Hill. Meredith Willson wrote the book, music, and lyrics for The Music Man. After years of development, almost 40 songs, 22 of which were cut, and dozens of drafts, the original Broadway production opened on December 19th, 1957. It won 5 Tony Awards. And even though the huge hit West Side Story opened that same year, The Music Man took home the coveted Best Musical Award. The cast album was awarded Best Original Cast Album at the first ever Grammy Awards in 1958, and was inducted as a Grammy Hall of Fame award winner in 1998. In 1980, there was a revival on Broadway starring Dick Van Dyke and a very young Christian Slater as Winthrop, and then another revival in 2000. The 2000 revival received 8 Tony nominations. The fictional town of River City, where The Music Man is set, is based in large part on Wilson's birthplace of Mason City, Iowa.
Excuse me. Are you Piper Goodeve?
Yes.
Well, either you are closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community. Well, you got trouble, my friend. Right here, I say trouble right here in River City. Why, sure, I'm a billiard player, certainly mine.
Okay, David, thank you. David Bonanno, ladies and gentlemen, playing Harold Hill.
Hi. I didn't know you were recording.
We just got a little preview of Trouble, right?
That's right.
Yes, good. A lot of lyrics in that song.
I've been practicing. Yes.
Along with practicing, I imagine you've been doing some research to get ready for this show.
I have.
And I would love to know, since you're here, what you think, what is a standout theme of this musical for you?
I would say that an overall theme of the piece is transformation. This con man comes to town, and throughout the course of events in the show, he ends up transforming the entire town. He ends up transforming individuals within the town, and ultimately, through a little twist at the end, he himself becomes transformed.
That's great. And for those people who are watching who don't know the plot of The Music Man, David, that's what these videos are for. For those people who don't know the plot, would you mind explaining the plot?
I would love to enlighten.
Great.
Yes.
Take it away.
The plot of The Music Man follows conman Harold Hill. Harold poses as a band leader and organizer and sells instruments and uniforms to the local townsfolk. He promises to train people to be members of a new band, but Harold Hill is not a musician, and he plans to skip town without getting any music lessons. Marion Peru, a prim librarian and piano teacher, sees through Harold. But when he helps her younger brother Winthrop overcome his lisp and become more social, Marion falls in love. What happens next? Well, you'll have to come back in August to find out.
Thank you, David. The Music Man is set in 1912, and by coincidence, our final production this summer of Long Day's Journey into Night is also set in 1912. So you'll be able to see 2 very different stories set in the exact same time period, back to back. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
The U.S. in 1912 was full of change. New Mexico becomes the 47th state, Arizona the 48th.
The Titanic leaves England in April of 1912 and begins her fateful journey.
The Girl Scouts are founded.
Fenway Park opens for its first season.
Cracker Jacks start including a toy in every box.
I love those. Textile workers in Lawrence, Massachusetts go on strike to protest unfair wages and horrible working conditions.
Taft is president.
Ragtime is the popular music.
Gas is 7 cents a gallon.
Men wear suits.
Women wear corsets.
And the zipper has yet to be invented. Excuse me, are you Steve Stetler? Well, either you are closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber.
Thank you,
of
David. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Marissa McGowan to talk about her upcoming role of Marion, and also chatted with Larry Pressgrove and Michael Raine to discuss their roles as musical director and choreographer in this summer's Weston production. I'm here with Marissa McGowan today to talk about The Music Man and her role of Marion the librarian. Hi, Marissa.
Hi, Piper.
Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So let's start by talking a little bit about your history at the Weston Playhouse.
Oh, okay. It's a good one. I started at the Weston Playhouse when I was 19 years old. I auditioned and I saw that the Weston Playhouse was doing Gypsy, which is a show I loved, and I wanted to play Dainty June, and I auditioned and I got it. Steve, I remember it was like a back and forth with Steve, and I had actually gotten another job offer for the summer, and I remember him saying to me, "We're not going to have our final decision, and for a little while, but let me know if you get another offer." And I called him up and I was like, "Hi, I got another offer. I just wanted to tell you, no pressure though." I was 19 years old, and so then I got the offer to go be in the Young Company for the summer with some other really fabulous people. And so I got to spend my first summer at Weston, and then I was in the Young Company for 3 summers total. And then
I didn't realize that.
I was in for 3 summers, and then I became a professional, and I learned everything I know, honestly, on the Weston Playhouse stage, and especially downstairs in the cabaret. And made some of the best friends of my life, and I am so grateful that that's where I kind of grew up. I also went to a college program where I was getting a really wonderful education, but then to get to actually work with professionals and get directed by professionals and have that experience for 3 summers of college was invaluable. And then I have been going back ever since. I actually first went back, I was on tour with Les Miserables, which was my first big show, and I took a leave of absence to go and do Kiss Me Kate.
Oh my God.
Because I was doing Les Mis for so long, and Steve said, if you wanted to come back and do Lois and Kiss Me Kate, we'd love to have you.
Aww.
And I thought, could I make this happen? And yet again, I was young and had a lot of guts, and I just asked. I was like, I'd really like a leave of absence for 6 weeks so I can go to Vermont. They said yes.
That's awesome.
So,
all you can do is ask.
Exactly.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
I know. Right? We're only as bold as we were when we were teenagers. But So anyway, and then I go back whenever I can, and it's my favorite place to work and spend the summer, and I adore the people.
So you said you were in Kiss Me Kate, you were in Gypsy,
yes.
And you've sort of had a career of playing iconic female leading ladies now, graduating from Dainty June to other roles. Let's talk about some of those. You played, not at Weston, Maria in The Sound of Music, Guinevere in Camelot, Magnolia in Showboat. Can you talk a little bit about those roles that are so ingrained in anybody who loves musical theater and knows anything about musical theater history, and how you approached those roles and why those roles in particular were of interest to you?
Yeah. Well, I feel really lucky that I've gotten to play as many of these iconic musical theater heroines. And I'm drawn to strong women, and to get to play these women who have just every color in the box to play with and to use has been amazing. And I've done Maria in Sound of Music twice now.
Oh, okay.
I've done Guinevere in Camelot twice.
Oh my God.
I've only done Showboat once, but they hardly do it anywhere. So.
And I guess we can add Aldonza to this.
Oh
too,
yeah,
last year.
She's a good one. Yeah, for sure. And I think it can be a little daunting. Especially a role like Maria in The Sound of Music, where that movie is so popular and everybody thinks of Julie Andrews, and she's so spectacular in that movie. And the reality is it's just really, really well written. And if you take the nerves and the memory out of your mind, because I grew up watching that movie, and I could probably do a Julie Andrews impression, but what I've always chosen to do with roles is once I find out I'm doing them, I don't listen to the cast recordings. I don't watch the movies. I don't, of course, if I'm familiar with them, you have it in the back of your head, but I try to get away from what I know and just approach it from the text and approach it, as a singer and as an actor, and go from there and come up with these characters. And luckily, all of these women that I've been fortunate enough to tackle, just it's so brilliantly written that it's, you know, I think I've been able to make it my own and bring who I am to it.
Yeah,
So.
that's great.
Yeah.
And now Marion in The Music Man.
I'm so excited.
Have you played this part before?
Actually,
No.
funny you should ask. I did. I played Marion in The Music Man in my community theater's young people production of The Music Man when I was 15 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
Excellent.
yeah. And actually something that was really cute was my youngest sister Stephanie played Amaryllis.
Oh.
And it was her first time in like a lead role in a show.
gosh.
And so she talks about it.
Yeah.
You know, my sister who now is, you know, getting married and has a house and is a real adult, you know, we were just talking about this because she said, I remember when we were doing Music Man and I was so nervous and like, you know, she had to be on stage with me and she said that like at one point I could see her like breathing and she said I grabbed her hand and I was like, you know, like give her like a little wink and she was like, I remember that so clearly. It's so
That's
sweet,
so
you know.
great. Yeah.
But so Music Man is very special to me.
Yeah.
However, I haven't done it in 20 years, so it'll be a little different this time around.
A little more age appropriate
I
to
think
play.
perhaps, you know, pretending, you know, playing that I'm, you know, an old maid and, you know, can't find a husband. It was something at 15 years old I don't think I quite understood, but so this time maybe it'll be a little deeper, you know?
Excellent, yeah. You've worked with Malcolm Ewan a whole bunch at Weston, and he's going to be directing Music Man. Can you talk a little bit about working with him and what that process is like and why you keep wanting to work with him more?
I will work with Malcolm on anything. I mean, if he asked me to read the phone book, I'd do it for him. Malcolm is just one of the smartest, most, you know, kind and open directors I've ever had the privilege of working with. I mean, Weston is always, everybody I worked with at Weston is always so wonderful and, you know, I feel like it's such a safe environment to do great work and to take risks and take chances. And, you know, I worked with Malcolm 2 summers ago on Guys and Dolls, and I just love the way he works because he really lets you discover and he really lets you play in the rehearsal room and he'll never say no. You know, occasionally he'll say, why don't you try this or, you know, and make a suggestion. But then if he goes and sees what he told you to do isn't working as well as what you were doing, he'll say, nope, I was wrong. Right. That was bad. You know, and he's just, there's no ego. He's incredibly brilliant. And his overall eye of looking at a show and a piece and deconstructing it is, and he's just kind and lovely to work with. So I'm thrilled to get to work with Malcolm again this summer.
Yeah. And David Bonanno will be playing.
Oh, who?
Who? Yeah. David who?
I think I've heard of him.
But have you guys ever worked together in this type of capacity
Not
before?
really. No, I mean, David was the lead of Chicago when I was in the Young Company. He also was one of the leads in Pirates of Penzance when I was like the 8th sister from the right. And then what else have we worked together on? I was in Ragtime. I was in the ensemble of Ragtime, and he was talented. He was so good. I mean, I have just been completely in love with David Bonanno's talent for 15 years now, and so to get to actually play opposite him is just a total dream. He's the funniest. He's a brilliant actor. He's such a fun guy to be around, and I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be excited because people know David so well and people know you so well, but we actually, the Weston audiences, have never seen you guys together.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm personally also very excited about that because I think it's weird in my mind that you guys hadn't worked together.
I know.
Because we're all so close and because we've all done a bunch of shows together, but this is very different, and especially the Marion Harold relationship, I think, is really special, and that you guys will bring so much to that.
Yeah, I really can't wait. I can't wait.
So I wanted to start just by asking you guys what your history with Weston is, when you came for the first time there, and how that history has evolved.
Well, I worked there years ago 7 years ago, Rob Meff had done many productions there. And I happened to just email him and say, I'm looking for a job out of town in these weeks. And he's like, I have to be away from Weston that time. How about you? And so I did Funny Thing Happened Away the Forum. Then I wasn't here the next year. And then I've done the next four. 42nd Street. What was the next one?
Chorus line.
Chorus Line. Guys and Dolls.
Yep. You're almost there.
And then what did we do last year? Mamma Mia. It's so funny. I am very much the project that I'm doing right now kind of person.
Yeah.
And then it just goes out of my head.
Out the window.
What about you?
Yeah. I always knew Weston and Steve because I taught at NYU at Cap 21, where very often the Young Company shows up. And I choreographed a production of Thoroughly Modern Millie right before 42nd Street, and Steve saw it, luckily, because he was there, looking at the Yoko, and he called me into a meeting, and it was the fastest meeting of my life. He said, 2.5 weeks, 42nd Street, can you do it? And I said, yeah, of course. Sure, why not? And then I've been back every summer since.
And have you guys worked together on every show?
Yeah.
The last
Those
four
four
shows,
shows,
yeah.
I have not done a show at Weston without Larry.
That's amazing. That's great. So how do you guys go about collaborating with each other? How does the music affect the dance or vice versa? And what's your process together since you've worked together so many times?
Well, I think initially we have to get on the same page about which version of the show we're going to use, whether it's amalgamation or whatever. I have to know which recordings he's listening to for the dances because dance cuts and all that kind of stuff. And then we compile our own version of the show from that template. So then it's a matter of what Michael's needs are for the dances, or if we're going to, with Mamma Mia, we really wanted to trim things down, and so we had to negotiate. But yeah, I don't know, we talk more about after we decide which version
we like the best, and see if it's available to us. A lot of what happens next is we see how long it's going to take to tell our version of the story, and then we tailor those other versions for the one that is uniquely ours that we take up to Weston.
Obviously, the size of the stage affects how the dances are going to go. For instance, when we did the ballet in 42nd Street, did we do the whole thing?
We didn't do the whole thing, but we did a big chunk. We didn't cut too much out of that.
Yeah, but then
we sure did. We took actually an entire number out of 42nd Street that no one noticed.
Yeah.
In the big sequence of being in Pretty Lady, for anyone who saw it, the show and within the show, there was a whole extra number that they added for a revival that we sort of, in our conversations, actually just getting to know each other, I was actually a little nervous to suggest cutting a whole number.
Yeah.
We were on the same page, and we did things like that.
Oh, that's great.
And then also, like for Guys and Dolls, I had done it at the Performing Arts High School. I work at LaGuardia, and got access to the dance orchestrations from the revival.
Oh, great.
And then we got permission to use those, and they're much hotter.
Yeah.
They're fantastic arrangements. A guy named Mark Hummel did them. And so we decided to use those.
Oh yeah, we were both
very excited.
We were
about
thrilled
that.
and fighting for those.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, one of the things we always say as we go show to show now is which one of us has the hard job, depending on the show. Like Chorus Line, obviously, I was the workhorse on that. But then we look at something like Mamma Mia that had 32 musical numbers or something, and I was basically saying, Larry, what can I do? What can I do?
Background singers on every song.
On every song, how do we make this work for him? And that'll be part of the fun of figuring out the Music Man, because I think the charm of the Music Man again is the score of this one. So this is his show.
Have either of you guys worked on the Music Man before?
I've never done it.
No.
I grew up on a farm in Kansas, and my parents had about 10 cast albums. And Man of La Mancha, South Pacific, Kiss Me Kate, and Music Man. And Barbara Cook's voice just is in my bones. I just cannot believe how beautifully she sings that score.
Yeah.
So I've always loved that score. And it's one of the few musicals that has a Midwestern And you know, a lot of things are about New York. Even if they're not about New York, they're very New York
Right.
based.
Or urban, even
That's
in
right.
general, yeah.
And Meredith Wilson wanted it as a tribute to his hometown in Iowa. So,
That's so great.
and it really does capture a very Midwestern vibe, I think. So.
That's great. So, Larry, how do you go about, like you said already that you're familiar with this score, but how do you go about familiarizing yourself with it when you're going to be working on it, which I imagine is much different than just enjoying listening to
Yeah.
the CD? And how do you prepare for that first rehearsal where you're going to be teaching the score to a cast?
Yeah, I mean, I just play it over and over again and really imagine what it's going to be like to teach it. So that's when you really start to see how it's put together and the requirements. And then because Weston casts quite a few people that I know already, I'm sort of anticipating the projects that I'm going to have, because there's always a certain amount of skill building in any score, you know. And so, but you usually think that you get maybe 2 or 3 days of music. Right now, what we've been doing is kind of starting the end of a week. It's mostly just music, and then we have a sing through in the Linville barn. And so I just think about how I'm going to spend that and who's going to be singing what. And we sometimes talk about who's available, who's on stage, who's not.
Right.
I mean, Mamma Mia was really difficult because it's one of these modern musicals are actually built more like the way that a score would be built in a recording studio, because the background vocals do things that normally, you know, in old musicals you have a singing chorus and a dancing chorus, and they never really do things over the top of a soloist. So Mamma Mia was kind of a nightmare. Who's on stage and who's available to sing, and are they changing clothes? You know, but I'm really looking forward to Music Man, which is built very analog, sort of. You know, who's singing is on stage when they're supposed to be.
Right.
And then, I think that's mostly it, and just thinking about, you know, the emotion of the piece and how we want to build it, what the tempos might be. But I keep a lot of it. I don't try to pre-plan too much, except how those first few days of vocal rehearsal are going to go, because, you know, this person's going to need a lot more work, and you don't necessarily know that till you get there. And this person's already got it memorized. So.
And Michael, same for you. How much of the choreography do you plan 100% ahead of time? And how much of it is evolving once you get in the room?
I definitely show up with a solid plan. I would say that I show up with at least 80% ready to go, a draft. You know, I'll change things if needed. But with the time that we have, it's better if I go in and know what I'm doing right off the bat. And I have the unbelievable pleasure of, anyone who knows Weston knows Felicity by now. And she's been with me for every single one of these musicals. We've known each other almost our entire adult lives, and I'm able to talk her into meeting me in studios leading up to heading up there to really work things out and work ideas out, just so that there is time if something doesn't work.
Right.
But you know, the Music Man, there's a difference in the Music Man between the movement and the dancing, which is really nice. And I will come up with the dancing completely ready to go. But the movement, when I'm working with the singers and the actors, I can be a little more fluid with that. But Shapoopy, I just gotta teach it.
This is what we're doing. But I like watching you work with actors, and especially comedic actors, because he'll say, now I have a couple of jokes here if you need them.
Right.
But if you want to go with yours first, then, you know, we'll do that. And that gives everybody a chance to contribute when it needs that ownership.
Great. Can you elaborate a little bit for anybody who's watching this video right now who might not understand or really know exactly what you're talking about when you say the difference between choreography and just stage movement, and maybe give an example of that?
Absolutely. I'll use Music Man because it's a great example where the adults, as we call them a lot because the Yoko are usually the ones doing all our dancing, are actually called on to do a lot of musical staging. The opening number of the show All the men are on stage. It sounds like they're on a train, and they need to have a physicality to go along with it that will be a sort of dance. And I would call that movement versus dancing, where something like Shapoopy, which, you know, we're all going to be waiting for when we're sitting there waiting for it to happen, where it's a lot of technical dancing and jumping and partnering and true choreography versus movement. And I can go to rehearsals at Weston and trust the acting community to be a part of the conversation with the movement, which is really very lucky and very thrilling. And so that I can show up with less of a solid idea than something that would involve technical dancing.
And I imagine that because you guys are a part of the audition process, but not necessarily for the young company, right? Or maybe some other members. And so I would imagine leaving yourself open to saying, oh, wow, we didn't know that this guy was going to be able to do a triple pirouette into a, you know, whatever it is. I'm not a dancer, but you know, that opening yourselves up to that type of excitement of being like, wow, I didn't know that I now had that person who has these skills. That must be kind of exciting in the room. And same with singing wise too, I would imagine, right?
It is exciting. I learned more at the cabaret that they're all doing when I show up than I could possibly from all the auditions, and it really is a moment to really see who the young company
You meet somebody
they are.
like Michael Seltzer, and you're like, oh, he can do that, and 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 you're just like, I'm going to try. Can he do that?
Can you do that? Can you do that?
And he probably can.
He probably can.
You guys have worked on quite a range of Mamma Mia. Just from Mamma Mia to Music Man is such a huge difference in terms of what you need from a singer and what you need from a dancer. And I imagine that would affect the audition process as well. And
I mean, we send a lot of emails around, and what about this person, or what does this person need to be able to sing, and all that kind of stuff. I'm so looking forward. I've never gotten to work with Marissa's high soprano voice.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait, because I know she sang kind of mezzo in La Mancha, but I was saying, I think maybe we talked about maybe doing it last year or something, and I said to her, can you do that stuff? And she like,
Okay, yes you can.
I can't
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. I talked to her a couple days ago about playing Marian, and we were realizing that she and David Bonanno have known each other for so long and have been in shows together, but have never played opposite each other.
That's great.
And how exciting that's going to be for everybody, anyone who's watching, for them to work on it together, and also then for you guys to work with them to create those roles together. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Well, the whole company.
Yeah.
I mean,
As it
I
comes
don't know
together.
how much we can, but
Right, yeah. Well, let's keep some
We'll keep it
stuff in
secret.
our back pocket.
let me tell you, there's some treats.
Can't give away all our secrets. What are you guys looking forward to the most? Like, if there's one specific thing in the choreography of Music Man and one specific thing vocally in Music Man that you guys are looking forward to in working on this summer, what would that be?
Well, My White Knight is one of my favorite all-time. I don't know what it is about that song, but it just is so evocative to me. So I can't wait to, I've never gotten to coach anybody on it even.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking, whenever you teach a song and coach with somebody on it, you learn a lot more about it. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have always loved Marian the Librarian. That just the groove of that tune is so cool.
I've got some crazy ideas brewing right now for that one. I'll tell you about them later. You have to wait.
I can't wait.
For me, Weston is very generous with me that they hand me some of the most iconic moments in music theater history in the time I've been up there. And Shapoopy's one of them. It's just one of those unbelievably well-known, well-loved numbers. And I'm looking forward to knocking it out of the park, because it's literally everything we do best up there.
Yeah.
We've got a chorus of fantastic young performers, really excited to be up there. We know the stage, we know the space, and it's going to be great.
I enjoy that with Michael. He's like, somebody could look at the size of the stage and consider it a limitation, and he considers it a challenge to
Oh,
stay,
yeah.
as big as he would be on a big stage. And,
My gosh, we have arguments about, can I just get, like 4 more inches on the deck? It's all I need and I can do it.
yeah, we figured out a new way
Every
to
now
build
and then we do. We actually have made the
Built the
Weston stage
deck out.
bigger.
That's amazing.
But we dance on every available inch on that stage
Yeah.
at all times.
Yep. And
That's-
sometimes even on the pilasters.
A little bit if we have to.
On the wall.
I think that's what makes musicals at Weston so great.
Yeah.
Is, I see a Broadway show now and I feel like I'm 6 miles away. As opposed to, it doesn't matter where you are in that theater, you feel the
Yeah.
energy of that ensemble in that space just working to tell the story. It's just thrilling.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
so
you.
excited to see the show this summer. I can't wait.
yeah, we have a lot of work to do between now and then.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Thank you for coming
My
tonight. I think that was
pleasure.
it. I think we got it all. You nailed it.
Oh, you nailed it.